The truth.
What's up, YouTube? It's Dan here from Team Darkbright here, and I'm back again with this time with a retro structure deck review. Today we'll be reviewing Structure Deck R, Curse of the Dark, otherwise known as in the TCG as Lair of Darkness. Mainly this review is just to highlight the new cards that were introduced in the set, and also just to show, let's just show off the deck. Because now this deck's kind of getting hard to find, because it hasn't been reprinted in a while. I think I've seen this deck go for, the English TCG version of this deck go for, around, I want to say around $40. I've seen this go for 40, which is kind of insane. Well, let's just show off, actually, the playmat you also get in this, which no one really uses, but still, it's a playmat. I think this looks pretty cool. And then on the back is just cards that will help support this deck and how to play this deck. Really cool. But let's just get into this deck, review. So mainly this review is to highlight the new cards that are introduced, as well as the difference between the OCG version and the TCG counterpart of the structure deck. There's very few different cards. There's only a couple cards that the TCG got that the OCG did, and vice versa. So let's start off with the first card. First off, we have Darkest Diablos. This card has a very interesting effect. Your opponent cannot tribute this card and cannot target it with card effects. If a dark monster you control was tributed, you could special summon this card from the graveyard or hand to the field. Additionally, you can tribute one dark monster. Your opponent sends one card from their hand to the top of their deck. Both effects can only be activated once per turn. Pretty much a decent card. The ability to send one card from their hand to control one of your opponent's cards is pretty good. Next card is Arima. This card's really interesting. Especially this card can be sent from the hand to the graveyard to search for the field spell card of this deck, which is Lair of Darkness. Or this card can also be used on field, as if you tribute one dark monster, you can draw one card. If the monster you tributed was not this card, you can just tribute this self to draw one card. You can instead search for a monster that has 2,000 or more defense and add to your hand. This can search out cards like Darkest Diablos and many other cards in this deck. Next we have Duke Shade and an awesome Parallel Rare. I wish we got this rarity more for our structure decks. Onto the card though. This can be special when you're tributing as many dark monsters as you want, and it gains 500 attack points for each monster tributed. If this card was normal or special summon, you can add one level 5 or higher dark monster from a graveyard to your hand. However, when you're summoning this, when you activate this card's effect, you're actually locked into only summoning dark monsters, which is not a big deal for this deck because all the cards in this deck is dark. Then we have the original Diablos, which is an okay card. Hard to summon since it cannot be special summoned, but having the ability to choose what your opponent draws is nice. Next we have is Lich Sword, which all it does is recycle itself if it was destroyed by a card effect. Next we have is Prometheus, which gains 400 attacks for each dark monster you banish from a graveyard on summon. It's an optional effect, so you summon it, and you can just banish as many cards you want to make this a beat stick. Next we have an interesting reprint, the Archery Emperor. This is a decent card you can summon without tributing, but it dies in the end phase. This is really nice because it allows for easy rank 8 or link monster play, since you can just normal summon this, and if you have a Darkest Diablos already in the field, you can link it to link 2, or you can also Xyz into a rank 8. Next we have a nice reprint the structure gave us, Caius the Mega Monarch. Great effect. It's a level 8 that can be tributed using only one card as tribute. It banishes one card on the field and burns it for 1,000 damage, and burns the opponent for 1,000 damage. And if the card is a dark type, banish all copies of that card from the graveyard, hand, main deck, and extra deck. And the also option is if you tribute 2 monsters from this card, you can banish 2 cards on the field instead. Next copy of this card is Legendary Maju Garzette, which gains attack based on the monster distributed and inflicts piercing damage to defense monsters. Not bad. Then we have a really good, amazing reprint, Vanity's Fiends, which locks both players from special summoning monsters. Now we have Mist Archfiend, which can be summoned by retributing, but which can be summoned by attributed without attributing. So it's a good 2400 beat stick, but it gets destroyed at end phase, and the user gets burned for 1000. But still, it's a good to momentarily have for like if you're trying to go for the kill. Next we have Infernal Dragon, which is a nice 2k beat stick for a 4-star monster. It can help get Darkest Diablos out, since if it's destroyed, you contribute 1 monster and summon this card back from the grave. So if you, let's say, if you tribute a monster on the field, special summon this card, you could chain link 2 Darkest Diablos, if it's in the grave or hand, special summon Darkest Diablos as well. Next we have is Archfiend Cavalry, which is easily getting a 3000 attack monster on board, since if this card is destroyed on field or by battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 Archfiend monster, so that level 8 Archfiend we have in this deck, from the graveyard to the field, but it cannot attack on the turn it's summoned. Next we have Ascension Street Patrol in the nice parallel rare, which is an interesting reprint. We have Phantom of Chaos, which can easily get any monster, any of your monsters to the graveyard from the deck, and also access the monster it's sent to the graveyard, so it's pretty good. So essentially this makes 3 additional copies. If you're running 3 copies of Darkest Diablos, you run 3 copies of this. You can pretty much have 6 copies of Darkest Diablos, essentially. Next we have is Plague Wolf, which can double its attack points but destroy stuff with the end phase, so it's a nice 2k beat stick also. Next we have Phoenix Rhino Warrior and Curry Bandit. And ooh, here we go. Tour Guide of the Underworld reprint. Very good card, obviously. It's now at 3, but for OCG and TCG. And there's one of the reasons why the deck's been this deck's kind of hard to find initially is because Tour Guide reprint was huge back then. And we even got an absolute backjack reprint, which I think around this time also came out in like the Premium Gold series, which was or like right before. So it's a pretty good reprint. And then finally, to round up the monsters, we have Relink Karibo. Now on to spells. So start with the spells, we have Lair of Darkness, the field spell. This is a great field spell card, since if any monster were to be tributed for a card effect, you could tribute one of your opponent's monsters instead. This is a once per turn. Also, in the end phase, summon tokens equal to the monsters tributed to the turn player. So let's say I tributed 2 monsters. Then on my end phase, I'll get 2 tokens. If my opponent, and then also if my opponent tributes like 2 monsters on their end phase, they get to get 2 monsters too. So it's pretty good. Next we have is Reoccurring Nightmare, which returns 2 dark monsters with 0 defense from your graveyard to your hand. Pretty decent. And one of the best reprints in this deck by far. That parallel where it looks incredible on this card too. A Lair of Darkness. And yeah, it's great. And ooh, even card destruction here. Also a great reprint. Next is Foolish Parallel Goods, Boogie Trap, and Fire of Doomsday, which is a token summoning card. And finally, Prohibition. For the TCG, we actually did not get Prohibition or Card Destruction. Instead of Card Destruction, we actually got Hand Destruction. Instead of Prohibition, we got Veil of Darkness. And then on to traps. Now we have the new virus card for the structure deck, Grinning Grave Virus. Tribute 1 dark monster with 3k or less attack points, and your opponent destroys 1 card in their field for every 500 attack points that monster had. And if that monster you tributed had 2000 attack points or more, you get to look at your opponent's hand on each of their draw phases for 3 turns, and if they draw a monster, destroy it and send it to the graveyard. This is incredibly great because, like, let's say you tribute like Darkest Diablo, right? It's 28. That's like a 2800 like monster, right? It's 3000, excuse me, but it's 3000 monster. You get to pop 5. You get to pop up to 6 cards on the field, just for tributing that, and you can get it back next turn anyways. So it's great. Then you have the Russian Virus cards. You have Crush Card Virus with the new errata change for that time. Deck Devastation Virus. Eradicator Epidemic, which is a really good card. No wonder this one is the parallel rare, because blocking your opponent out of spells and traps is pretty good. And then we also have Full Force Virus, which never really gets used, to be honest. And to round out the traps, we have Dark Light, Trap of Darkness, Mind Crush, Rise to Full Height, Curse of Darkness. Ooh, drop the card there. And the Sinister Yoshiro. And then, felt like we were missing one monster here, but we are. But here it is. It's the Lilith Lady of the Torment. Essentially, she allows you to search for 3 normal traps from your deck. Your opponent randomly chooses 1, and you get to set that card and shuffle the other 2 back into your deck. It's important to note this is a quick effect, which means you can activate this on this turn and during your opponent's turn, and have a play ready for the beginning of your turn. So, for example, like I could just like it specifically doesn't say 3 different traps. So, if you're running like triple crush card or like triple like grinning grave virus, right? You could just set those 3. Your opponent just chooses one, but it's gonna be the same card anyway. So this is pretty good, and this is not locked to viruses. This is to any normal trap card. So you can be like, so this could work on like many decks too, like Trap Trick. You could get Trap Trick out, like search for other cards too. Like it's really good. And then finally we have a Torment token. Well, that rounds up our retro structure deck review of Structure Deck R Curse of the Darkness. This is Dan from Team Dark Bright signing off.